One yogurt brand already paid $1.7 million in Canada for claiming their product improved your digestion. The product never changed. They just changed the words on the label. And that's just the beginning of what's sitting in your fridge right now. A Montreal resident named Emmanuel Sungo didn't buy it. He filed a class action lawsuit and the company had to pay $1.7 million. The settlement forced them to remove clinically proven and scientifically proven from every label, every commercial, every ad. They also had to strip the word immunity from their Dan Active products entirely. This wasn't just a Canadian problem. In the United States, the FTC ordered the same company to pay $21 million to 39 state attorneys general. A separate class action cost them another $35 million. The FTC specifically prohibited them from claiming their yogurt relieves irregularity unless they clearly state that 3 servings per day are needed for any benefit. The probiotic strain they built the entire brand around has no approved health claims in Canada or the European Union. Every digestive benefit on that packaging is legally unsubstantiated. And inside the cup, a single serving of the strawberry flavor has around 12 grams of sugar, 3 teaspoons. Many products contain carrageenan, a thickener that a 2024 clinical trial published in BMC Medicine linked to intestinal barrier damage and gut inflammation, particularly in individuals with higher BMI. The zero-fat versions swap sugar for sucralose and acesulfame potassium, and a 2022 study found just 10 weeks of sucralose consumption caused gut dysbiosis in healthy adults. The product marketed to heal your gut may be the thing disrupting it, but that company didn't just make one yogurt. They made several because the same parent company took the exact same playbook and repackaged it in sleek black containers for a completely different audience. These black containers project performance and strength, protein counts printed large on the front, athletic endorsements, 17 grams of protein per serving. Sounds like exactly what you need after a workout. But flip the container. Cane sugar, cornstarch, locust bean gum, natural flavors, colorings. The strawberry has around 10 grams of sugar. While that's lower than some competitors, it's still added sugar most people aren't expecting in what they think is a fitness snack. The 000 line, 0 fat, 0 added sugar, 0 artificial sweeteners, still contains tapioca starch. And while it uses stevia leaf extract instead of artificial sweeteners, some research suggests stevia may still impact gut bacteria in susceptible individuals. The whole brand implies athletic performance and muscle-building benefits that go far beyond what yogurt can deliver. You're getting yogurt with sugar and starch, manufactured by the same company that settled that $1.7 million lawsuit for misleading health claims. And if you think it's just one company cutting corners, what comes next proves the pattern runs much deeper. Because one of the most trusted family brands in Canada has been loading its products with something most parents would never expect in their child's breakfast. This brand has been a household name since 1971. Colorful cups, cartoon-branded tubes, synonymous with family snacking. But a single serving of the original hits 17 grams of sugar, over 4 teaspoons in 1 cup. Health Canada says kids ages 4 to 6 should get a maximum of 19 grams of added sugar per day. 1 cup nearly maxes that out before breakfast. The tubes marketed at kids with cartoon packaging, a 3-tube serving hits 18 grams, 36% of a child's daily limit in a quick snack. The ingredient lists include modified cornstarch, artificial colors, and preservatives like potassium sorbate. The low-calorie versions use aspartame and acesulfame potassium. Aspartame breaks down into phenylalanine, which is why these products carry warnings for people with phenylketonuria. But how many parents are reading that far on a yogurt tube? And here's the part that actually matters. High sugar content feeds harmful gut bacteria, actively counteracting any probiotic benefit. Parents are paying for a health advantage that the sugar is canceling out. You're buying a sugar-loaded, starch-thickened dairy tube with artificial colorings designed to taste like fruit. If this is useful, subscribe. I dig into the food industry's biggest marketing gaps every week, and there's a lot more coming. Now, some parents saw those ingredient lists and switched to a brand that launched with $70 million in marketing and one loud promise. It was the clean Canadian alternative. because when this brand hit shelves in 2012, it was the biggest yogurt introduction Canada had ever seen. The messaging hammered what it didn't contain. No gelatin, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no gluten. Parents looking for cleaner kids' snacks took notice, but the zero fat line contains sucralose, an artificial sweetener. The same product declaring no artificial flavors quietly uses artificial sweeteners. That's not a technicality, that's a contradiction they're hoping you won't catch. Sucralose is a chlorinated sugar substitute. During manufacturing, 3 hydroxyl groups in sucrose get replaced with chlorine atoms. That 2022 study found it decreased beneficial probiotic bacteria while increasing problematic strains. A 2024 review in BMC Medicine confirmed that sucralose decreases beneficial intestinal bacteria, alters amino acid synthesis, and increases inflammation. The toddler line, products designed for children whose eating patterns are being established for life, contains modified cornstarch and natural flavors, a term that tells parents nothing about what's actually been added. And the proudly Canadian brand, sold to Agropur in 2017, then to Lactalis in 2020. Your Canadian yogurt is owned by a French multinational. That proudly Canadian label is marketing. The ownership papers say something very different. And that French multinational didn't just buy one brand. They quietly assembled a collection that now dominates the entire dairy aisle because the next brand they acquired had spent 50 years building its reputation on purity. Started as Balkan-style yogurt, milk, cream, culture. The plain version still holds up. But reach for a flavored variety and the ingredient list explodes. The probiotic line's plain version alone has 8 ingredients: skim milk, cream, whey protein concentrate, milk protein concentrate, agar, pectin, lactase, and bacterial cultures. That's 8 ingredients for what's marketed as a simple probiotic yogurt. The flavored versions add sugar, modified cornstarch, natural flavors, and colorings. The packaging says over 1 billion active probiotic cultures per serving. But the research on whether commercial strains actually survive stomach acid and colonize the gut is mixed at best. A big number on the label doesn't mean a big number actually reaches your intestines. And here's what most people don't know. This brand now sits alongside 3 other major yogurt labels, all controlled by the same parent company. Lactalis, the world's largest dairy company. Less competition, less innovation, and ultimately less real choice for you. That illusion of choice becomes even more obvious when you look at the brand positioned as the artisan option, because the artisan image has stayed the same while the corporations behind it keep rotating. Quebec heritage, Mediterranean, and Greek lines hinting at old world authenticity. Everything about this brand says craft and tradition. It's positioned for consumers who consider themselves above mass market options. The kind of yogurt you see at a dinner party or a brunch buffet. But it was acquired in 2010, folded into General Mills, then sold again in 2024 to a French dairy cooperative called Sodial. Throughout all these ownership changes, the artisan image has remained perfectly intact while the corporate machinery behind it keeps growing. The flavored varieties contain refined white sugar along with fruit. While the company emphasizes no gelatin and no sugar substitutes, many products still contain thickeners like pectin and starch. Not harmful, but a far cry from the simple traditional yogurt the branding implies. A single serving of the Mediterranean line hits around 14 grams of sugar, higher than many competitors despite the premium price. You're paying more and getting more sugar than what sits in the budget section. And here's something most people miss about Greek style in Canada. Unlike in Europe, Canadian manufacturers can label products Greek or Mediterranean without following traditional production methods. Authentic Greek yogurt gets its thickness from straining whey, concentrating protein naturally. Many commercial versions achieve that thickness through added starches, thickeners, and milk protein concentrates instead. You're paying artisan prices for a product that's changed hands through 3 multinational corporations. So here's where we are. Lawsuits that didn't change formulations, probiotic claims that don't hold up, sugar levels that contradict health messaging, A handful of multinationals controlling most of the dairy aisle. 6 brands deep, and the same patterns keep repeating. Misleading labels, hidden sugars, corporate ownership disguised as local heritage. And we're not done, because the next brand proves that even when a company starts with genuinely clean products and real intentions, corporate acquisition quietly shifts what ends up in the cup. Credit where it's due. This BC-based brand's organic plain yogurt is one of the cleanest on the market. Organic partly skimmed milk from grass-fed cows, skim milk powder, and active bacterial cultures. No added sugars, no thickeners, no artificial anything. That's what yogurt should look like. But it's now owned by Lactalis Canada, the same multinational behind 3 other brands already mentioned. The West Coast Spirit gets managed from corporate headquarters in Toronto. The flavored varieties add sugar and natural flavors. The single-serve formats include more processed ingredients than the plain tubs. And practically speaking, these products are mainly distributed in Western Canada. If you're in Ontario, Quebec, or Atlantic Canada, you may never see them on a shelf. The organic yogurt also runs $8 to $10 a tub. The quality justifies the cost for some families, but many Canadians simply can't afford that every week when cheaper options are right there on the same shelf. If you can find it and can afford it, the organic plain is one of the better options available. But the corporate ownership and accessibility issues are real. And on those same Western shelves sits a brand with roots going back over a century, because BC dairy farmers established it in 1917, and it became one of Western Canada's most recognizable names for milk, cream, cottage cheese, and yogurt. The plain yogurt stays relatively simple. No artificial sweeteners in the regular line. The company leans into that heritage hard. Fresh quality dairy, century-long tradition. And for the plain varieties, I think the reputation still holds. There's something to be said for a yogurt that doesn't need to hide behind marketing claims. But those century-old roots now belong to Saputo, a $17 billion global dairy empire headquartered in Montreal with operations spanning Canada, the United States, Argentina, Australia, and the United Kingdom. That small farm BC heritage is managed by one of the largest dairy processors on the planet. The flavored varieties include modified milk ingredients, thickening agents, and the standard processing aids you'd find in any mass-produced yogurt. Heritage doesn't guarantee ingredient quality. Corporate ownership doesn't guarantee local practices continue. The story on the label is a century old. The product in the cup belongs to the same industrial system as everything else. And if you live east of Manitoba, this yogurt doesn't exist on your shelves. But the problem goes deeper than any single brand, because there are specific ingredients hiding in almost all of these products that most people never think to look for. And once you know them, you'll read every yogurt label differently. These aren't obscure additives buried in specialty products. They're in the mainstream brands sitting in millions of Canadian fridges right now. Modified starch, corn, maize, or tapioca shows up in nearly every flavored yogurt in Canada. It's an industrial thickener replacing the traditional straining process that naturally creates a thick texture. Cheaper, faster, and it lets manufacturers use lower quality milk while achieving the same mouthfeel. Modified means the starch has been physically or chemically altered from its natural state. It's not dangerous the way sugar is, but its presence tells you the yogurt needed engineering help to feel like yogurt. Real thickness comes from real straining. Modified starch is the shortcut. Right next to that starch, you'll almost always find natural flavors, which sounds harmless. Natural is good, right? But under Canadian food labeling regulations, natural flavors can cover a wide range of compounds derived from plant or animal sources, processed and combined in ways that have nothing to do with the fruit pictured on the packaging. That strawberry yogurt with a picture of fresh berries on the front? The strawberry flavor may contain dozens of chemical compounds extracted, distilled, and blended in a lab. You'll never know which ones because the label only ever says 2 words. And those 2 words lead straight to the ingredient generating more scientific concern than almost anything else in your yogurt. Because while starch and flavors are about deception, this next one may be about actual physical harm. Carrageenan. extracted from red seaweed used as a thickener and stabilizer in dairy products across Canada. For years, it was considered harmless, but a 2024 clinical trial published in BMC Medicine found it may damage the intestinal barrier and increase inflammation, particularly in people with higher BMI. The irony here is hard to miss. An ingredient that may actively harm your gut is sitting inside products that promise to improve it. It appears in multiple major yogurt brands, not listed in bold, no warning label. It just sits quietly in the ingredient list while the front of the package promises gut health and digestive wellness. And in the zero-fat and low-calorie versions, sitting right alongside it, you'll find sucralose, acesulfame potassium, and aspartame, because these are what brands reach for when they want to print zero sugar on the front of the package. The WHO issued a global alert in 2023 about potential health implications of non-sugar sweeteners. Multiple studies link them to gut microbiome disruption, altered glucose levels, and decreased beneficial bacteria. Aspartame breaks down into phenylalanine. That's why products carry warnings for people with phenylketonuria, but most consumers never read that far. These compounds show up most in the products marketed as the healthiest. The zero-fat yogurt positioned as the smart choice may be trading sugar for compounds that disrupt the very system the packaging claims to support. You're not choosing between healthy and unhealthy. You're choosing between two different kinds of unhealthy, and neither one matches what the label is telling you. And maybe the most invisible ingredient of all isn't something you eat. It's the illusion of choice itself. Because when you walk down any Canadian dairy aisle, you see dozens of brands, different colors, different promises, different price points, and it feels like a competitive market. It feels like these companies are fighting for your trust by making better products. But the math tells a completely different story. Danone owns 2 major brands. Lactalis controls 4 more, plus a recently acquired 5th. Saputo owns another. General Mills controlled 2 until recently selling to other multinationals. All those packages, most come from the same few companies using similar formulations, similar thickeners, similar sweeteners, and nearly identical marketing strategies. When one brand gets caught in a lawsuit, the parent company adjusts the wording and keeps selling the same formulations under different names. That's what happened after that $1.7 million settlement. That's what keeps happening across the entire industry. The variety on that shelf is itself the marketing. So after all of that, the lawsuits, the hidden sugars, the corporate shell games, what actually deserves a spot in your cart? Olympic Organic Plain, 3 ingredients, grass-fed milk, no added anything. One of the cleanest options on the market if you can find it. Siggy's Icelandic Skyer Plain, widely available across Canada. Just skim milk and live cultures. High protein, low sugar, no tricks. Tree Island, a small batch BC brand using 100% fresh grass-fed milk from small family farms on Vancouver Island. Organic fruit, less sugar, no powders or fillers. Or make your own. Milk plus a spoonful of yogurt with live cultures as a starter, an instant pot, and you're done at a fraction of the cost. It takes less than 5 minutes of active work and you control exactly what goes in. One rule that simplifies everything. Buy plain, add your own fruit at home. Clean yogurt contains milk, maybe cream, and live cultures. That's it. The moment the ingredient list stretches past 4 items, someone is engineering a product to taste like something it isn't. When you buy branded probiotic yogurts with health claims on the front, you're not paying for health, you're paying for marketing. And once you start reading ingredient lists instead of front of package claims, you'll never go back to trusting the branding again. The Canadian yogurt market runs on the gap between what the packaging says and what the ingredient list actually contains. Probiotic claims regulators have challenged. Health benefits that cost companies millions in settlements. Ingredient lists that tell a completely different story than the front of the package. And a handful of corporations quietly controlling almost every option on the shelf. Now you know how to read past it. Tell me in the comments which brand caught you the most off guard. If this changed how you'll shop, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.